I don't know if I could ever get tired of riding here in California. I'm pretty jealous of you guys because they ride here all year long. What's going on, guys? Alex here. Welcome to Southern California and welcome to TFL Bike. I've got a full review in this video of that behind me, the 2020 Ducati Scrambler Desert Sled. Super cool bike, super cool styling. Let's get into the review. The first thing you need to know is that the Scrambler brand is a lineup of modern classic style bikes made by Ducati. There's a bunch of different models within the range, most of which use Ducati's 803cc L-twin engine. The Icon is the base model. There's a cafe racer, the flat track inspired full throttle model, an all new night shift model, which would look great in the city, and then the one you came here for, the Desert Sled. The name really comes from the skid plate underneath the bike. Basically, here in Southern California and in Baja back in the 60s and 70s, people used to take big bikes like this, 500cc or more, slap knobby tires on them, spoked wheels, high front fender, mesh headlight guard, yeah, and a skid plate, and they'd have what they would call a desert sled, and that's exactly what we have here. Ducati in 2019 brought the Desert Sled name back, and it's now available in this, which is an entry-level Ducati. Super cool looking bike with all those parts. Definitely looks like it's ready to go hit the dirt, and yeah, just overall a really mean looking motorcycle. All right, so I got the Desert Sled filled up with gas here. It's all topped up, ready to go. I'm gonna take it on a little ride and give you all my thoughts on it. So I'm starting out here in downtown LA, gonna head down towards the water in Malibu, and yeah, let's hit the road. Stepping up next to the bike, the first thing you'll notice is how tall it is. This is a really, really tall bike. 33.9-inch seat height. Started up, nice rumble there. Filled up with gas, 155-mile range it's saying. Yeah, this thing sits tall. The handlebars are wide, and the handlebars are also tall. That's kind of the first thing you notice when you get on this bike. Yeah, kind of my initial impressions of this bike is that it's incredibly easy to ride, which makes sense for an entry-level Ducati like this is. 12 grand for this bike right here. I'd call that an entry-level Ducati. If you want a Ducati, it's not gonna get much cheaper than this. Yeah, flat footing it, I mean, I can get one flat foot down on one side if I lean the bike a little, but straight up and down, I'm tiptoeing at 5'10", so there's an idea of where the seat sits. It's a pretty high motorcycle. Powering the Desert Sled is Ducati's 803cc air-cooled L-twin. You can see it right there. This makes 73 horsepower and 49 foot-pounds of torque. And I gotta say, I really like this motor. Finish on it is pretty cool too. The cases are painted black. You have some of this nice silver accent coming through, and these nice brushed cooling fins up here on the head. The suspension setup on the Desert Sled is unique to the Desert Sled. This uses a 46mm diameter fork up front. They are fully adjustable, and I really like the suspension components. You can see they have these fork guards mounted up here to go along with the dirt bike style, but that's what you want for going off-road, is a big beefy fork. So 46mm diameter on the forks up front versus the 41mm forks you get on the rest of the Scrambler bikes. And in the rear, classic yellow Ducati shock. It is adjustable for compression and rebound. You can see that little remote reservoir tucked underneath there. So all in all, good suspension components on this bike.
Hey everyone, this is Case from TFL Bike with our Ride Smarter Tip of the Month, brought to you by Rider Justice. We hope you never get into an accident on your bike, but if you do yourself a favor and stay off social media until your claim is settled and you're back to full health. This is even more important if the accident wasn't your fault. Why? Well, you can be sure the insurance company will scour your social media feeds looking for any evidence they can use to lessen your settlement amount, or worse, not pay you at all. One innocent post from you claiming, "I felt great and I took a walk today," could cost you thousands of dollars. To learn more about how to ride smarter with common sense tips anyone can follow, go to riderjustice.com, the champions of biker rights, on the road, in the courtroom, and now across the country.
All right, merging onto the highway here. This is a pretty good bike on the highway, which is surprising. You're not going to be racing around on the highway, but 6th gear going 80 miles an hour, I'm under 6,000 RPM. The bike is not wrung out and it's not trying too hard. The other thing is the tires. I was a little worried about these tires in terms of highway use. I knew they'd be fine around town, but they're good on the highway too. I am just so upright. My chest is acting like a big old sail in the wind, and I'm taking all of it. There's no wind protection on this bike, and it's definitely throwing me around a little bit. These are Pirelli Rally Scorpion STR tires, and I think the reason they're so good on the highway and just around town is because they're not full knobbies. They still have pretty big blocks here, so that's a lot of surface area to contact on the road. Still plenty of tread for off-road. 17-inch rear, 19-inch front on spoked wheels. I love the spoked wheels, love the black rims. Overall, I'm super impressed with the tire combination. If I bought this bike and wore through a set of these, I would replace these in a heartbeat. They are awesome. As far as brakes go, really good stuff. I had no issues with the brakes. Plenty of stopping power everywhere I went around this weekend. Up front, a single 330mm disc with a 4-piston Brembo caliper, and in the rear over on the other side you can kind of see it poking through, single 245mm disc with a 1-piston caliper, and both the brake lever and the clutch lever are adjustable. So if you're into adjustable levers, that's not something you're going to have to put on aftermarket. The bike comes with it. Welcome to Santa Monica, guys. A very windy day, so the sand's all over the place. But this is where this bike, I think, really fits in. Yeah, this has all the goodies to take you off-road and is set up like a dirt bike, but I also think it makes a lot of sense here in Southern California, where people really care about what they're driving and what's taking them around and how it looks. And I think this machine has the look, has the style. Really high quality key on this bike. It just feels pretty solid compared to, you know, some of the stuff I'm used to in the Japanese world. That power's on the dash, and pretty cool looking dash. So all this stuff, fit and finish, is what you'd expect from an Italian Ducati. But there you go. Really easy to see this thing at night. It's controlled using this up and down rocker over on the left handlebar, as well as the turn signal. Actually, if you click that in while you're not moving, that's actually your enter and select buttons. But anyway, you can scroll through here and you know, get the air temp, mileage, all things like that. But then you can go into the settings mode. And there's actually 2 different riding modes. So if we pop into there, there's Journey, which is what you're gonna wanna use on the road. That's gonna have ABS, and this does have Bosch cornering ABS, so high-end ABS system. It's gonna keep you safe. But if you switch it into the other mode, which is off-road mode, that allows for disengagement of the ABS system, which is exactly what you want on the dirt. This bike also doesn't have traction control, so as far as safety tech goes, it is pretty limited, but I don't think that's a big issue for a bike like this. This is pretty awesome. Lane splitting's legal here, and I kind of like it. I don't think it works in Colorado as much as I'd love to be able to do it, but drivers just aren't aware that it's happening, and here they are. It's nice. So yeah, going back to how easy this bike is to ride, it's the whole package. It really is. If you can get over the high seat height, maybe if you're a taller person, it's so easy to ride. The clutch is really easy to pull. It's very lightweight for being a hydraulic actuated clutch. The bars being this wide and tapered back, it's a really comfortable seating position, and you can definitely put a lot of miles on this bike very easily. The motor's not too powerful where it's going to scare new riders away. It's a really good amount of power, and it sounds good. And then you have brakes. You have really good brakes. Single disc up in the front, but it's all beefy Brembo stuff. Brembo caliper in the rear too. So yeah, this bike will bring you down to a stop pretty easily and with a lot of confidence. That is beautiful. I don't know if I could ever get tired of riding here in California. I'm pretty jealous of you guys who get to ride here all year long. Get some nice cool riding days in the winter. For being set up like a dirt bike, this engine rides really well on the street. 803cc L-twin. You don't get that constant vibration like you would expect on a regular dirt bike, you know, classic thumper. Much more smoothed out, much more refined on this. You still have that deep throaty feeling, which I think is important on a bike like this, that's supposed to be able to go on the dirt. So it definitely still sounds meaty. It sounds like it's grumbling down the road, but it's definitely smooth. I'm not being rattled around. My mirrors aren't vibrating like crazy, so I can't see anything out of them. It's a very refined package.
I really like the tank on this bike. I think the fit and finish on it is pretty incredible. Really high quality paint. Definitely has a little bit of a shimmer to it. I really like it. And it kind of has these aluminum side panels with the red Ducati paint kind of coming through the edges of it. It looks like this aluminum piece is kind of floating. I really like that. 3.57 gallons is what this bike takes, and you go through it pretty quick. It doesn't have the best range in the world. Also, these side panels are interchangeable, so you can change up the look of them and replace them if you damage them off-road. And as far as what this bike weighs, 460 pounds wet and ready to go. So as far as a street bike goes, not too heavy, definitely manageable, but pretty heavy for a dirt bike. Depends what class you kind of want to throw this into as far as comparison in terms of where the weight's gonna fall.
Sitting in traffic around here in LA, you do remember that it's a Ducati. It does run hot, it does cook your legs a little bit. It's not terrible, but you definitely are reminded of that classic Ducati problem. I don't know if you want to call it a problem. It's just a classic Ducati thing. All right, here we go. A little bit of a canyon ride coming up. Malibu Canyon Road. Gonna head into the valley from the beach. Let's see exactly what this bike is like on some twisties. One thing you notice is that around turns, this bike likes to be up straight. You really have to kind of push hard and counter steer it a little hard into the turns. It does definitely want to stand up straight, and I think that's kind of due to a few things. It's the tires, it's the height, it's the handlebars. Just all that working together, I think, doesn't contribute to a bike that really wants to lean into the corners, but it's still fun doing it. The one thing I'm not a huge fan of is the gearbox. I think it's a little bit clunky. You have to be pretty deliberate with your shifting. So if you want to downshift, like, you really have to give it a good solid kick. Otherwise, you do slip into neutral accidentally more than I'd like to. That's happened to me quite a few times already. Otherwise, in the mountains, it's pretty fun. You sit way up high, so I feel like I'm carving canyons in an SUV, but I'm having a blast. Now, I know you guys are going to say, why are you riding this bike and reviewing it in the mountain roads of California and not out in the desert or in Baja and taking it off-road? And it's a pretty easy answer, actually. First of all, I think a lot of people buying this bike are buying it for the appearance. They want it to look good while they're riding it through the city or through town or commuting on it, wherever. And I think the bike does a good job with that. But second of all, let's look at this as an off-road bike for a second. It's a heavy dirt bike. This thing's 400 pounds. It's also got a steel tank and a lot of aluminum on the side of it. There's a lot of metal bits on this bike. It's also a Ducati. So when you drop this off-road, it's heavy to pick up by yourself, so you better have some friends with you. You're gonna do damage to this really nice looking tank, and replacement parts are gonna be way more expensive for this than they are on a dirt bike, you know, from one of the big four, where you've got a plastic tank and all these plastic fairings and everything. So while this is a cheap Ducati, in the world of dirt biking, this isn't a cheap machine to go thrash around off-road. And as you guys know, this isn't my bike. Ducati lent this to me, so I don't want to be the one to crash it for the first time off-road. So if you buy a desert sled, that's kind of on you to take off-road, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that in the comments below. How many people buying this desert sled do you think will actually take it into the dirt? Or do you think it's going to be a few years till this has hit the used market and it gets cheap before someone really thrashes it in the sand or in the dirt or on the rocks? I might be wrong. Some of you might disagree with me, but that's just kind of my viewpoint on where this fits into the world of dirt biking.
I think the styling's the main reason you're gonna wanna buy this bike. If you want a full-fledged dirt bike, there's better options out there. If you wanna spend all your days on the motocross track or trail riding, this provides a good mix of everything. You can still get around the city and you look great doing it. If you want a really cool looking city street bike that can also handle the dirt, this is probably the best option out there. There you have it, guys. That's my full review of the 2020 Ducati Scrambler Desert Sled. A bike that has a ton of character, has a crazy good look, and is super easy to ride. I think it's really enticing for beginners, but also for people that have been riding a really long time. It's just a really fun, enjoyable ride and can take you on some great adventures out in the dirt every once in a while. I don't think it's a great everyday dirt bike though. Let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments below. Huge thanks to Ducati for lending me this bike for a couple days. Let me know what bikes you're interested in down in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next one.